Very warm welcome to all of you. Today, Shikshan Sanstha's Ismailsaheb Mulla Law College Satara, in association with Legal Services Clinic IMLC Satara, organizes one-day legal inter-lead collegiate workshop on global environmental policies. So, first of all, I would like to request our principal, Dr. Pawar ma'am, to give welcome address. Pawar ma'am.
Thank you, Shweta. Uh, Let me welcome today's resource person, Prajakta Chavan madam, on behalf of Ismailsaheb Mulla Law College Satara and its legal services clinic in this one-day interlead collegiate workshop on global environment policy. Let me introduce today's resource person in brief. Prajakta Chavan madam has done her BSc in zoology, and at present she is pursuing MSc uh, in the same subject. She has a number of years research work to her credit as far as association with Wildlife Protection and Research Society is concerned. At present, Madam is the organization secretary of this NGO, which was established in 2005 by Dr. Amit Syed, who is a well known environmentalist. Uh, this particular organization, NGO, it works about creating awareness, environmental awareness about animals, flora, fauna, regarding cruelty to animals, regarding the Blue Cross facilities, that is treatment of abandoned animals, etc. It also creates helpline for the work it carries on in respect of animals, snakes. it can be uh, it can be reached at various particular social medias like Facebook, YouTube channel, Instagram, Twitter, etc. They are doing a very fantastic work as far as environmental sustainability is concerned. We all know that animals are also very important part of this life cycle in this environment. This environment consists of human beings, which is also a species of animals, and other animals which have equal role to play in this chain of life system. So I request Madam to guide us as far as what should be the environmental policy locally, regionally, as well as globally. Because environment cannot be held in a watertight compartment of nation or state or village or district. In fact, it has repercussions on entire globe. We are witnessing many climate changes, which is also one of the reason of environmental uh, calamities, we may say. And therefore, if we want health for human beings, we have to take care of animals too. And this connection between the environment and different species of environment can be explained very well by Madam in her lecture on global environmental policies. Once again I request you, I welcome you on behalf of Law College and request you to guide our students, which also include students from 7 law colleges in this cluster group of lead college activities. I request you, madam, to guide our students. Thank you.
Thank, thank you, ma'am. Now I would request Prajakta Chavan ma'am, Organization Secretary, Wildlife Protection and Research Society, to guide us. Chavan
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am. Good morning, all of you. Today's lecture is Global Environmental Policy. ग्लोबल इन्व्हायरमेंटल पॉलिसी म्हणजे पर्यावरण धोरण. जे पर्यावरणामध्ये जी पर्यावरणीय धोरणे आहेत, जागतिक पर्यावरण जी धोरणे आहेत, ते आपण याच्यामध्ये पाहणार आहे. त्याच्यामध्ये त्याचे प्रिन्सिपल्स, त्याच्यानंतर जे कायद्याने जे ऍक्ट केलेले आहेत ते कसे आहेत ते आपण आज इथे बघणार आहे. त्याच्यामध्ये मी पहिल्यांदा तुमच्या पुढे स्क्रीन शेअर करते. मॅम स्क्रीन दिसते? हॅलो हॅलो.
येस मॅम.
हा, स्क्रीन दिसते का माझी?
येस येस मॅम, दिसते.
हा हा हा. Lecture will be start. The word policy is defined as course of action which has been proposed or adopted by a government, organization, or an individual. An environmental policy is the framing of a similar course of action for the protection and environment, wildlife, and natural resources. In a developing country like India, an environmental policy is especially required because there is a constituent need for balancing between environment one and side and the needs of development on the other. A good environmental policy is a precursor for ensuring suitable development. म्हणजे पर्यावरण धोरण म्हणजे काय? तर पर्यावरण, वन्यजीव आणि नैसर्गिक संसाधनाच्या संरक्षणासाठी समान कृतीची रचना करणे, एक प्रकारची रचना करणे. त्याचप्रमाणे भारतासारख्या विकसनशील देशात विशेषतः पर्यावरण धोरण करणे आवश्यक आहे. कारण बघितलं तर एका बाजूला सध्या पर्यावरण आणि दुसरीकडे विकासाच्या गरजा यांच्यात समतोल राखण्याची गरज आपल्याला दिसून येत आहे. नेक्स्ट बघणार आहे environmental policy. Environmental policy is the community of an organization to the laws, regulation, and other policy mechanism concerning environmental issues. म्हणजे पर्यावरण धोरण म्हणजे कायदे, नियम आणि पर्यावरण विषयक संस्थांशी संबंधित आणि इतर धोरणात्मक यंत्रणांशी आणि संस्थेची केलेली बांधिलकी, एक प्रकारची बांधिलकी केली जाते. These issues generally include air and water pollution, waste management, ecosystem management, maintenance of biodiversity, the protection of natural resources, wildlife and endangered species. म्हणजे या समस्यांमध्ये सामान्यतः हवा प्रदूषण आणि जल प्रदूषण यांचा समावेश होतो. त्याचप्रमाणे कचरा व्यवस्थापन, परिसंस्थेचे व्यवस्थापन, जैवविविधतेची देखभाल, त्याचप्रमाणे नैसर्गिक संसाधनाचे संरक्षण करणे, वन्यजीव आणि धोक्यात असलेल्या प्रजाती म्हणजे बऱ्याच प्रकार आपण बघतो की प्राण्यांमध्ये असतील, परत वनस्पती असतील, पक्षी असतील, यांच्या प्रजातींचा जे धोक्यात प्रजाती असतात त्या प्रजातींचा समावेश याच्यामध्ये होतो. Environmental policy is a two major term, environment and policy. Environment refers to the physical ecosystem but can also take into consideration the social dimension and the economic dimension. Policy can be defined as a course of action or principle adopted or proposed by a government, party, business or individual. मीन्स सरकार, पक्ष, व्यवसाय किंवा व्यक्तींनी स्वीकारलेली किंवा प्रस्थापित केलेली कृती किंवा तत्व. This environmental policy focus on problem arising from human impact on the environment, which act on into human society by having impact on human values such as the good health or the clean and green environment. म्हणजे पर्यावरण धोरणामध्ये पर्यावरणावरील मानवी प्रभावामुळे उद्भवलेल्या समस्यांवर लक्ष केंद्रित करते, जे की चांगले आरोग्य आणि स्वच्छ हरित पर्यावरणासारख्या मानवी मूल्यांवर नकारात्मक परिणाम करून मानवी समाजावर कार्य करते. नेक्स्ट बघणार आहे आपण प्रिन्सिपल ऑफ नॉन एन्व्हायरमेंटल पॉलिसी. The National Environmental Policy 2016 established for the following 14 principles as a guiding principle for the protection for environment and conservation of nature and natural resources. Some of these principles are self-explanatory, other may be require a short description for the readers and under which has been provided below. First बघणार आहे आपण ह्युमन beings are the center of sustainable development corners. Next आहे the right to development. Both the present and future generation have a right to development which must be respected while making provision and environmental protection. It must be remembered that no development can take place without a healthy environment. म्हणजे सध्याच्या किंवा भावीच्या पिढ्यांना विकासाचा हक्क आहे, ज्याचा पर्यावरण संरक्षणासाठी संरक्षणासाठी तरतुदी करताना आदर केला पाहिजे. मात्र निरोगी वातावरणाशिवाय कोणताही विकास होऊ शकत नाही हे लक्षात घेतले पाहिजे. Environmental protection is an integral part of the development process. पर्यावरण संरक्षण हा विकास प्रक्रियेचा अविभाज्य भाग आहे. Fourth, the precautionary approach. Sometimes we are uncertain about the full impact of a developmental activity on the environment, and scientific evidence that a certain developmental activity will cause environmental degradation is lacking. However, that does not mean that we'll be go ahead with the said developmental activity. National Environmental Policy 2006 provides measures to ensure that lack of scientific evidence will not be used as a reason for not taking suitable measures for environmental protection. Fifth, economic efficiency. An important guidance principle of National Environmental Policy 2006 is that economic efficiency will lead to greater environmental benefits. For inserting this National Environmental Policy suggests that economic valuation of environmental resources and ecosystem service be carried out in a comprehensive manner. Fifth, poultry pets. Sometimes the action of one individual or company may have an impact on another individual or company even when they may not have a direct economic relationship with each other. म्हणजे काही वेळा एखाद्या व्यक्तींच्या किंवा कंपनीच्या कृतींचा दुसऱ्या व्यक्तीवर किंवा कंपनींवर परिणाम होऊ शकतो, जरी त्यांचा थेट आर्थिक संबंध नसला तरी त्यांचा एकमेकांशी हा संबंध असतो. उदाहरणार्थ, फॉर एक्झाम्पल, इफ अ फॅक्टरी इमिटिंग एअर पोल्युशन is set up around a residential area, the pollution will have an adverse impact on the residents even when the residents are not deriving an economic benefit from the factory. म्हणजे निवासी उदाहरण बघायला गेलं तर निवासी क्षेत्राभोवती वायू प्रदूषण करणारा जर कारखाना उभारला तर रहिवाशांना कारखान्यातून कोणताही आर्थिक फायदा होत नसला तरीही त्या प्रदूषणाचा रहिवाशांवर विपरीत परिणाम होत असल्याचा आपल्याला दिसून येतो. Such an impact is termed as external environmental economic, and if the factory owner does not compensate is the resident, then the entire production system is said to be infancy. National Environmental Policy 2006 advocate that in all such cases, the polluter must be bear the cost of such externalities. Cost minimization. When the economic valuation of the impact of environment of an developmental activity can be calculated, the economic cost or realizing the benefits such as a development activity must be minimized. जेव्हा विकास क्रिया कल्पांच्या पर्यावरणावरील परिणामचे आर्थिक मूल्यांकन केले जाते पण त्याची गणना केली जाऊ शकत नाही. अशा विकास क्रियाकल्पांचा फायदे लक्षात घेण्यासाठी आर्थिक खर्च कमी करणे आवश्यक आहे. Intents with incomparable value, economic valuation, and cost benefit analysis for utilizing or exploiting some natural resources like a health, tiger population, unique landscapes such as the Valley of Flower, Uttarakhand, etc. Albeit heritage like the Taj Mahal, etc. Simply cannot be done since these are incomparable resources. Damage, degradation, or loss of these resources cannot be accepted and will not be allotted at any cost. काही नैसर्गिक साधनांचा वापर किंवा शोषण करण्यासाठी आर्थिक मूल्यमापन आणि खर्च लाभाचे विश्लेषण, वाघांची संख्या, तसेच अनोखे लँडस्कॅप जसे की व्हॅली ऑफ फ्लॉवर्स उत्तराखंड, त्याचप्रमाणे बांधलेला वारसा ताजमहाल यासारखे फक्त तेव्हापासूनच करता येत नाही. ही अतुलनीय संसाधने आपल्याला आहेत असं दिसून येते. या संसाधनाचे नुकसान, ऱ्हास स्वीकारला जाऊ शकत नाही आणि कोणत्याही किमतीला परवानगी दिली जाणार नाही. This is the national environmental policy agrees to the non-acceptance of any kind of economic calculation. In such case, an advocates priority in resource allocation for the protection and conservation of such entities. Equity 7. Equity. All human beings must be given access to the nature and natural resources such as a clean air, water and this. सर्व मानवांना निसर्ग आणि नैसर्गिक संसाधने जसे की स्वच्छ हवा, पाणी इत्यादींमध्ये समान प्रवेश मिळाला पाहिजे. लीगल liability. Any person of company causing harm to the environment must be liable in the court of law and must be is already discussed in the poultry page in principle. Next, field-based liability. In addition to the above, a person or company may be liable for not following the set environmental standard. For example, if any company burning large amount of coal need to have a height of 13 meters and it is actual height in only 10 meters, it can be held liability and penalized. Next, strict liability. If the action of inaction of a person or a company cases damage to another person or company. Then the first person of company discompanies the second person or company, even if the first person or company has not broken any law or duty. जर एखाद्या व्यक्तीच्या किंवा कंपनीच्या कृतीमुळे किंवा निष्कृतीमुळे दुसऱ्या व्यक्तीचे किंवा कंपनीचे नुकसान होत असेल तर पहिल्या व्यक्तीने किंवा कंपनीने कोणताही कायदा किंवा कर्तव्य मोडले नसले तरी पहिल्या व्यक्तीने किंवा कंपनीने दुसऱ्या व्यक्तीला कंपनीला भरपाई दिली पाहिजे. उदाहरणार्थ फॉर एक्झाम्पल इन द भोपाल गॅस tragedy for 1984, strict liability applies on the Union Carbide Company from the where the gas leaked and killed thousands of people. 1984च्या भोपाळ गॅस दुर्घटनेत युनियन कार्बाइड कंपनीवर कठोर निर्बंध लागू केले होते की जिथून गॅसची गळती झाली होती आणि त्यामध्ये हजारो लोक मारले गेले होते. नेक्स्ट पब्लिक ट्रस्ट doctor. This an important doctrine in the National Environmental Policy 2006, according which the state is not an absolute owner but only a trusted for the national resources wealth of the country. Second, decentralization. Local environmental problem need local solution. However, local solution can only be achieved when the state transfers the power from central authority to the state authority, from a state authority to local authorities. The National Environmental Policy 2006 advocates such a decentralization and the transfer of power for ensuring suitable solution to environmental problem. Integration. The inclusion of environmental consideration in sectoral policymaking across all sectors and the state in linkage between various agencies at the central, state and local level is required for ensuring sustainable development. The National Environmental Policy 2006 recognized this and advocate for such an integration in the environmental related policy making. Environmental standard setting. The setting of environmental standard goes a long way in protecting the environment. An environmental standard may be an upper concentration value of a certain pollutant beyond which a certain type of factory cannot pollute in a unit time. The National Environmental Policy 2006 advocates the setting an environmental standard taking into consideration factors such as the risk to human health, risk to environmental health, technical feasibility, cost of compliance to the set standard. It is preventive action. National Environmental Policy 2006 clearly advocates the preventing environmental damage is far time better than degrading the environment and paying up later on to restore the degraded environment. नॅशनल एन्व्हायरमेंटल पॉलिसी 2060 मध्ये स्पष्टपणे सांगते की पर्यावरणाची हानी रोखणे हा पर्यावरणाचा ऱ्हास करण्यापेक्षा कितीतरी पटीने चांगले आणि नंतरचे नुकसान करण्यासाठी ते पैसे भरले. Environmental Outfitting the National Environmental Policy 2006 provided provision for exceptional cases where written for endangered species or natural system required for supporting life cannot be protected for some reason. In this case, the policy advocates that a cost effective harvesting measures must be undertaken to restore and or reclaim the damage so that the lost environmental service and return to the police public. नेक्स्ट बघणार आहे एन्व्हायरमेंटल पॉलिसी इन इंडिया. Modern India National Counseling for Environmental Policy and Planning was set up in 1972, which also later evolved into Ministry of Environment and Forest (MOEF) in 1985. 1972 मध्ये नॅशनल काउन्सिल ऑफ एन्व्हायरमेंट पॉलिसीची स्थापना करण्यात आली आणि जी नंतर 1985 मध्ये पर्यावरण आणि वन मंत्रालय MOEF मध्ये विकसित झाली. MOEF and the Pollution Control Boards CPCB, that means Central Pollution Control Board, and SPCBS, that is State Pollution Central Board, together from the regulatory and administrative core for the sector. The policy statement for abatement of pollution and the national conservation strategy and policy statement on environment and development were brought out by the MOEF in 1992. The EAP Environmental Action Program was formulated in 1993 with the objective from improving environmental services and integrating environmental consideration into developmental program. पर्यावरण सेवेमध्ये सुधारणा करण्याच्या आणि विकास कार्यक्रमामध्ये पर्यावरणीय विचारांना एकत्रित करण्याच्या उद्देशाने 1993 मध्ये पर्यावरण कृती कार्यक्रम तयार करण्यात आला. नेक्स्ट National Environmental Policy 2006. In the first in strategy formulation for environmental protection in a comprehensive manner. It undertakes a diagnosis of the causative factor of land degradation with the view of flagging the remedial measures we require in the direction. Next, they recognize that the prevalent traffic and sectoral policies need to take explicit account of their unintentional impact of land degradation. Next, the solution offered to tackle the problem compress adoption of both science-based and traditional land use practice, pilot scale demonstration, large-scale dimension, adoption of multi-stakeholder partnership, promotion of agroforestry, organic farming, environmentally sustainable cropping pattern, and adoption of efficient irrigation technique. Next, journal uh, Environment Act rules. In 1986, the Environment Protection Act authorizes the central government to protect and improve environmental quality, control and reduce pollution from all sources, and prohibit or restrict the setting and or operation of any industrial facility on environmental grounds. Next, 1986, the Environmental Protection Rules lay down pro- procedures for a setting standard on emission of discharge of environmental pollutants. Next, 1989, the objective of hazardous waste management and handling rules is to control the generation, collection, treatment, import, storage, and handling of hazardous waste. Next, 1989, the manufactures, storage, and import of hazardous rule. Define the term is in the context at the setup of authority to inspect once a year the industrial activity connected with hazardous chemical and isolated storage facility. Next, 1989, the manufacture, use, import, export, and storage of hazardous microorganisms, genetically injured organism or cells rules. Sorry, uh, were introduced with a view to protect the environment, nature, and health in the connection with the application for gene technology and microorganism. Next, 1995, the National Environmental Tribunal Act has been created to award compensation for damage to person, property, and the environment arising from any activity involving hazardous substance. Next, 1997. The National Environment Appellate Authority Act has been created to hear appeals with respect to restriction of areas in which classes of industry etc. are carried out the prescribed subject to certain safeguards under the environmental EPA. Next, 1998, the biomedical waste management and handling rules. It's a legal binding on the healthcare institution to streamline the process of proper handling of hospital waste, such as the segregation, disposable collection, and treatment. 1999, the environment sitting of industrial project rules. 1990, lay down details provisions relating a area to be avoided for sitting of industries, precautionary measures to be taken for site selecting as also the aspect for environmental protection, which should have been incorporated during the implementation for the industrial development project. Next, 2000. The Municipal Solid Waste Management and Handling Rules. 2000. Apply to every municipal authority responsible for the collection, segregation, storage, transportation, processing, and disposal for municipal solid waste. 2000. The ozone depleting substance regulation and control. Rules have been laid down to the regulation of protection and consumption of ozone depleting substance. Next, 2001. The batteries management and handling rules. 2001 rules shall apply to every manufacturer, import, reconditioner, assembler, dealer, consumer, and bulk consumer involved in the manufacture, processing, sale, purchase, and the use of battery or compartment so that as to regulate and ensure the environmental safe disposable of used batteries. Next, 2002, the noise pollution regulation and control abandonment rule lay down such terms and conditions are as a necessary to reduce noise pollution. Permit use of loudspeaker or public address system during night hour between the 10 p.m. to 12 midnight on or during any cultural or religious festive occasions. Next, 2002, the Biological Diversity Act. The Biological Diversity Act is an act to provide for the conservation of biological diversity, sustainable use of its component, and fair and equitable sharing of the benefits arising out of the use of biological resources and knowledge associated with it. Next act in Forest and Wildlife 1927. The Indian Forest and Abandonment 1984 is one of the many surviving unequal status. It was enacted to consolidate the law related to forest, the transit of forest produce, and the duty labor on timber and other forest produce. Next, 1972, the Wildlife Protection Act rules 1973 and Amendment 1991 provides for its protection of birds and animals and for all matters that are connected to it, whether it be their habitat or the water hole or the forest that is sustain them. Next, 1980, the Forest Conservation Act and Rules 1981 provides for the protection of and the conservation of the forest. Next, Otter Act 1882. The Ismail Act allows private rights to use of resources, that is groundwater, by weaving it is an attachment to the land. It also states that all surface water belong to the state and it is the state property. Next, 1997. The, the Indian Fisheries Act established to state for penal offense whereby the government can sue any person who use dynamite or other explosive substance it any way, whether coastal or inland, with intent of catch or destroy any fish or poisonous fish in order to kill. Next, 1956. The River Boards Act enables the state to enroll the central government in setting up to advise a river board to resolve issue in their state corporation. Next, 1970. The Merchant Shipping Act aims to deal with waste arising from ships along the coastal area within a specified radius. Next, 1974. The Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, established as institutional structure for preventing and abating water pollution, is established standard for water quality and influent polluting industries must seek permission to discharge waste in influent bodies. The CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, was constituted under this act. Next, 1977. The Water Prevention and Control of Pollution this Act provide for the levy and collection of fees of or fees on water consuming industries and local authorities. Next, 1978. The Water Prevention and Control of Pollution. The standard definition and indicate the kind of and location of meter that every consumer of water is required to affix. Next, 1991. The Coastal Regulation Zone Notification puts regulation on various activities including construction are regulated. It gives some protection to the backwater and estuaries. The last point, Air Act 1948, the Factories Act and amendment in 1987 was the first to express con- concern for the working environment of the workers. The amendment of 1987 has its environmental focus and expanded its application to hazardous processes. Next, 1981. The Air Prevention and Control of Pollution provides for the control and abatement of air pollution. In the power of enforcing this act to be CPCB. Next, 1980. The Air Prevention and Control of Pollution rules define the procedure of the meeting of the board and the power to them. Next, 1982. The Atomic Energy Act deals with the radioactive waste. Next, 1987. The Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Amendment Act empowers the central and state pollution control boards to meet with grave emergencies of air pollution. Next, 1988. The Motor Vehicle Act state that all hazardous waste is to be properly packaged, labeled, and transported. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for making us aware about all environmental policies, and thank you for your guidance. Now, I would like to request Assistant Professor of our college, Suryanshu ma'am, to give vote of thanks. Yes, ma'am.